My name's Drew Garcia. I'm with Rancho Mesa Insurance. I'm also a former professional athlete, and in my experience playing baseball, I played 8 years with the Chicago White Sox and Colorado Rockies. I knew the importance of my body. My body was my most important tool. And then watching you guys and being in the risk management industry, I get to see how much you guys actually use your body. It's much more than any athlete I've ever seen. So we created a stretch program specific to your industry. As a baseball player, my office was the field. I used to use the wall to get loose, put my hand up against it. For you guys, your job site, your game can be different. It can be at a different spot every day. You show up at the yard, and then you can go to a different job site, and then after lunch you go to a different job site. So something that stays constant throughout that entire process is the truck. It's there the entire time. So we want to make sure that the truck was here for our means of getting loose. Your body is your most important tool. I want you to be most productive. I want you to be able to have a long, healthy career. This is all part of that.
We're going to start out with our mobility stuff. The reason that we do this exercise is to activate the glute and activate the hip flexor, trying to get those muscles warmed up like we discussed before. The important part of this is you don't have to go through the full range of the motion. Your goal is just to get everything kind of limbered up, right? So you're going to go swinging motion as you kick back. You're trying to activate what is highlighted in the red zone. You'll notice that I do have some handy little colorations there so you can actually see what you're supposed to be feeling when you do these motions. As you get through that range, you can actually go even further into the stretch, but I wouldn't necessarily start going into the full range of motion. Same rule applies. Don't go to your full stretch until you're already warmed up. The reason I have 15 reps there is so that you can gradually increase the range in which you're trying to acclimate your body to get to that point. That's exercise 1. Exercise 2, I'm going to show you facing forward, though ideally you'll face the truck when you do that exercise 2. Exercise 2 is lateral swing. Same concept. You're going to swing in and out. You're going to, as you get more limbered up, you can go out to the side further. Sometimes belts are going to get in the way, pants are going to get in the way. So I recommend pulling your pants all the way up prior to those exercises so your hips aren't inhibited by your belt or your pants. Because as we spoke before, if the muscles that are supposed to be supporting your spine aren't actively supporting it, then you're more likely to get injured. Right? So if you can't activate your glute because your hip holds you down, then you're going to bend your back. And you're going to be lifting with that muscle as opposed to hip muscle, which is where all your power comes from. Exercise 3, going into that exact motion, is just standing hip drive. Right? And it's a hip hinge motion, and the idea there is actually to teach you how to activate the glute as opposed to the spine. So one of the major issues with lifting is that you get to a point where the hip can no longer really stretch, and then you end up bending with your back down the rest of the way. So our goal is to actually teach how to just activate the glute as opposed to glute and spine. Right? Spine should always be strong and stable. It's trying to do a specific job of holding you up all day. And then the hip is going to be the thing that does the work, right? 3, or 4. Exercise 4 is the truck push. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. You're going to strong spine, and then you're going to push the truck as far as you can from the side. Don't leave it in neutral and push from the back. It'll cause some problems. Try to get a nice solid grip on the truck. Make sure you have firm planted feet if you're on gravel. It can still be done, just make sure you be careful of slipping hazards and stuff like that. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back is best, especially if you're on gravel. That gives you a front leg support. You're not going to fall down if you kind of slip that back foot. And then push with the back leg and try to tip that truck over. Right? Ideally, you'll do a few sets of those, few reps, like 4-second holds at a time. The goal with that is activate the core, abdomen, activate the glute from press, activate the calves, quads, etc. Pretty much total body activation. And then everybody's favorite, this is a standing rotational stretch and warm up. So the goal here is once everything's already kind of warm, your body's going to go through full range rotation. Your back is going to go through a flexion and extension process simultaneously as it rotates through the core. Right? So as my spine rotates, one side of my back muscles are going to get shorter and activate. The other side is actually going to stretch and lengthen. So we use this in stretch and warm up simultaneously. All right? Big part of that, if the pelvis rotates in this motion, my pelvis turns, you have to pivot that foot or you're going to compromise the knee. Right? So if I turn my hip, I have to pivot with it because I don't want to mess up my knee, right? That's just precautionary. All right, so super simple. You can get through all of that within like, I don't know, 2-3 minutes. You don't have to do all 15 repetitions. The goal is to get through as much as you can spend with your time that you have, and then you go into the stretching. So, a few variations of the stretching process, and the major point of it is to, or for at least the first two, is to get the hip flexor muscles that are tight and pulling down on that spine to lengthen out. So, I don't know how many people can casually put their foot up on the bumper, so there's a few options. You can go down on the hitch. There's also inside the doorway. You'll have, likely have like a step here, but you can modify the height at which you are holding that stretch in a variety of different ways. Once you're at that position, as you'll see with the photo, I have a activation on the glute, so red on the butt, and then red on the abdomen. So your goal is to crunch and squeeze so you can feel a stretch on the front of that thigh. And that's how we activate that stretch. It's not by leaning forward or by overdriving that stretch. And pro tip, if this knee is behind your pelvis line, you're gonna feel more of a stretch than if it's directly under or in front of, okay? So, and it doesn't have to be that far back. It can be as far as 3 inches. And then the hip drive and the ab tuck is gonna feel that stretch, right? Now this one's a little more complicated. So I would like the door to be used in this case to make sure that nobody loses their balance or falls over. I can put my foot here, or I can put my foot up on the seat. So I'm relatively flexible, so the seat's not really a problem. The truck's kind of high, so any variation from high to low should be fine, but the low end will work. So I'm gonna hold, I'm gonna turn my body away from the center line so that my foot is up and back. My hip is gonna be behind, or my knees are gonna be behind my hip. And then from there, I'm gonna do the same activation, abs tight, glute tight, so I feel that stretch, right? And this hits a really long hip flexor muscle called the rectus femoris. And you don't need to know the technical name for the muscle, but that muscle attaches at the kneecap all the way to the top of that pelvis. So this is a really hard muscle to stretch unless you can get that knee both behind and that knee bent. So this is really important to get to that position, right? So this does part of that, but you have to bring it way back here in order to get that same stretch. So this is less strenuous. You don't have so much of a balancing act, and it's relatively easy to do using a truck or whatever else you want to, like whatever obstacle that you can that's about hip height or just below. All right, stretch number 3. This is the, I think, as far as overall stretches are concerned, most everybody's gonna really like this one. So, as much tension as our backs get throughout the day, sometimes it's really nice to alleviate some of that tension. So this is a hanging back stretch, right? So you're gonna basically just hold onto the truck and relax your back. And you can rotate your torso one side and then the other in order to increase the lever on that back. And then a really complicated, but actually very, I say really complicated. It's simple, but it's difficult to get the positioning right. Stretch for your upper back through a rotation. It's going to be cross-body reach, and then you're going to single arm. You can support it with this arm. You can grab both hands on the object, and you're going to lean away. And that's going to rotate your body from top of the shoulder all the way down to that hip line. And it's a rotational stretch that crosses that body. Again, don't try to stretch super far into it. There's not really any necessary need for that. Like a 2 or 3, 3 to 4 out of 10, like stretch. So let's say 10 is tearing your muscle out of the pocket, and 1 is I'm literally standing here feeling nothing. You want like a 3 or a 4 stretch. So moderate to mild stretch, and you're gonna hold it for about 30 seconds.